All right, welcome to this Land in the Bible short. Today we're going to talk about historically accurate Holy Land sites. Which ones are your favorite? I think, for me, I'm like, you go, well, I've been there and it's like, is it this one or is it that one or is it this or, and then you can't tell because everything looks like it's a lot of it looks modernized. And
yeah, so for a lot of years, a part of how we help generate funding for our ministries, we bring in church groups and kind of run the week-long or 10 days long Holy Land tour and take people to all the sites and do the explanations and sort of hit them up for donations at the end, I guess, just to be honest.
There you go.
So I got to do that kind of stuff a lot. It's not exactly my favorite because what I want to answer is the question of which sites are accurate. And so one of the questions I would get on a regular basis was, did Jesus step here? Was Jesus on this rock? Did Jesus pass by here? And people really, really want to know that at some point they stood, in the footsteps of Christ when they were on their trip. And that gets really difficult because a lot of the current sites really were established quite a bit later in history. A lot of the sites were established by Helena, maybe about 350 AD. You have sites that were established in the 1800s, much, much later. And they probably don't have a whole lot of historicity, but some sites do. So
is Helena Constantine's
mama?
Okay.
Yeah.
And she had the steps moved to Rome, right?
Well,
isn't that
she is? Sometimes people make fun of her and call her the most successful archaeologist in history because she found everything she looked for, and basically what she would do is she would just kind of come into a town, like let's say Bethlehem or Jerusalem, as the mother of the emperor with all these hundreds, maybe thousands of attendants with just money dripping off of everything to these poor provincials, and say, hey, if somebody can tell me where Jesus was born, I'll give you $1 million, basically. And of course somebody was like, oh yeah, I know.
Right here. Here's the spot.
I know. And so as a critical, I don't just be so critical that you just count everything because there probably was some local memory, but you really have to parse her discoveries, and go, well, why did they tell her that place? So for instance, at the Holy Sepulchre regarding Jesus's crucifixion, it is very likely that he was buried there. I don't enjoy the site. I prefer the garden tomb as far as just, a place to go pray and to think about what the crucifixion was like. But if I had to bet money on where he was buried, I would actually bet at the Holy Sepulchre, not at the garden tomb. And we'll do that. That'll be a different episode.
Yeah.
But if we just want to talk about places where I feel comfortable telling a tourist, Jesus stood right here. And if you go stand there, you're standing in a place where Jesus stood. I can really only think off the top of my head of two where I can absolutely put an X on the spot and say, this is it. There's lots of stories where I can say, well, there's 2 or 3 candidate sites, or where I can say, well, somewhere within 200 or 300, meters of here, this event took place, but exact, that's hard. And, so COVID is wrapping up. I hope, we're 2 years in and
depends on when you're watching this.
Yeah. Some people think it's about to be over and maybe by the time this comes out, it will be over, or maybe they'll have found some new variants and we'll be locked up again for another year and a half. I don't know.
Yeah.
But let's assume things are going to get better and tourism is going to reopen and people are going to want to travel again. And so if you're going and you want to know that you've went somewhere, you've stood somewhere Jesus stood, I'll give you 2 options. One is in Jerusalem on the south end of the Temple Mount. If you look if you're on the south outside the city walls, looking up at where the Al-Aqsa Mosque currently sits, just to the right of the mosque, you can see in the stone of the wall there 3 arches. They're closed in, but there are 3 arches there. Those arches actually date back to the time of Herod. And those are entryways to the temple courtyard. And you actually entered through there, and then you were under an underground passageway for a little while, and then there were stairs up that emerged in the middle of the courtyard. And those southern steps were the entrance for common people, which Jesus and his disciples would have been. So to me, that's one place where I feel with absolute certainty Jesus would have climbed those steps, probably several times in his life. So if you're there, I think you can say with a pretty high level of certainty, Jesus climbed these stairs, as well as Peter and John. The story in the Bible of the beggar, and they say silver and gold. I think it's in Acts 4. That story would have been right there as well. So that's a site where you can just say, all right, I feel confident with Jesus in this spot.
Got it.
Another one is far more obscure, and the vast majority of tour groups never go there, particularly Protestant tour groups. I would see like Russian Orthodox groups at this site from time to time, but very seldom would I ever see sort of Western evangelical types there. And this site is Jacob's Well. Jacob's Well is, of course, the site of the story of the woman at the well. And it's also the site, obviously, of the digging of the well, recorded in Genesis. But the reason I think that site is really, really authentic is two or three things. Number one, we have documents going back to about 200 AD identifying that as the place. So Jesus is there around 30 AD, around 200 AD, we have written documents saying this spot. That's pretty close. It's really close to the ancient world. Only 170 years worth of gap between the event and someone identifying it. But the main reason is just the fact that it's I forget the exact depth of it, but it's,
right.
When you stand there, it's got a sort of an old school pulley on it, so you can lower the bucket down the well and pull the bucket up, and you dump the water back in. You can pour it out into bottles and drink it if you want. It's clean. But if you dump the water and wait, I mean, it's several seconds before you hear the splash. It's like falling, splash.
Right.
Whoa, it's really deep. Oh no, it's a deep well. So I forget exactly how many feet it is, but it's I think to the bottom of the shaft, obviously the water surface is like 120 feet, maybe something like that or more. And bored in absolute solid limestone the whole way. And so part of why I just accept the site 100% without even thinking about it hardly is because 100-foot deep holes bored in solid limestone, for one, they're not common. So there's not another one. There is no other candidate for the site. There's no other place that's like, well, it could be this hole. No, there's not another hole like that. And they don't move. They're not mobile. And so since we have one, since we have a shaft like that that's been dug deep enough to access the groundwater there, and since we have account of it being used going far back in antiquity, and the fact that people far back in antiquity said it was the site of this incident, and there was Christian worship there, then for me that one's it's a slam dunk. So if you're able to, it's in a bit of an area where you got to be a little bit careful. But if you're able to go to Nablus, go to Jacob's Well, because that is one place that is probably the place where if you're sitting on that stone ledge, if you're touching that ledge, now this actual stonework has probably changed, by the way, over the last 2,000 years,
right?
But that is absolutely exactly where Jesus encountered the one at the well. So that's probably the best one in the country to put an X on the spot.
Yeah, because there's just really not any other candidates because of the depth and because of how hard it is to
build something like that.
Go through the limestone. Or all that.
Yeah. There's no other site.
Cool. That's awesome. Well, I guess that's it for this, but I'll put some links to some of those if people want to check it out in other places or read about it or whatever. So, thanks for checking this out. This Land in the Bible short. And as always, check us out on thelandinthebible.com for more content. We'll see you later.
Hey guys, if you like our content, please click like and subscribe. That really helps us out a lot. And then also go to thelandinthebible.com and subscribe for premium content. If you go over there, we've got tons of stuff that's really great. We have print materials that you can download. We have PDF study guides for all of our lessons. We've got devotional materials over there. We also have every single video and podcast we've done in full-length format with no ad interruptions and in full video. So you can get all of that on thelandinthebible.com with the premium subscription, and that really helps us. It helps us generate more content, and also half of it goes to help us go overseas and help refugee kids, is what we're really called to do.